Welcome to Grow with Robin, where we are grounded, rooted in obedience and wholeness. And I am your host, Robin. Thank you so much for coming back. This is our last episode, episode 7 in our series. And we're going to be speaking about your purpose of your growth. We journeyed through how to be grounded, how to be rooted, how to be whole, how to be obedient, cultivating the heart, and standing firm. And all that, we come to our last episode of the series, and that is bearing fruit. So, before we get into that, I just want to say, please, if you would like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss anything that's coming up, because there's a lot of good stuff that's coming. This is just not the last series, but we have a lot of things coming up that I'm super excited about. So, and I want you to be a part of that, to grow with Robin, to grow with me, heal, learn how to, again, in all situations, be rooted and grounded in obedience and wholeness with God. So that's my main focus and goal that we want to do here. But before we get started as well, I just want to let you know that we have a special guest. Our guest, if you can look over my shoulder here, this is Lula Bell. Lula Bell's going to be listening in. She won't say much, but she's just going to be listening and tuning in to what it means to bear fruit and the purpose of her growth. So as we get into it, John 15:5, it says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, you will bear much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing. So what is that saying here? Everything that we've talked about, being grounded, rooted, obedient, it all leads to bearing fruit, right? So you wasn't just saved just to sit in church. Let me tell you, you wasn't just saved just to sit in church, right? You were saved to bear fruit, to make a difference, to make an impact in the world, to be a living testimony of God's goodness. Here's the key. You can only bear fruit if you remain connected to the vine. Who is the vine? You can only bear fruit if you remain connected to the vine. And Galatians 5:22 tells us what the fruit looks like, right? It tells us what the fruit looks like. So it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, joy, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Notice it didn't say fruits. Notice it didn't say fruits, because I hear a lot of people saying fruits, but it didn't say fruits. It's just fruit. Fruit, right? It's not plural, it's singular. So when we are grounded and rooted, the evidence of the fruit is there. People should see your life, not because you're perfect, not because you're connected to him. Because you are connected to him. You don't have to be perfect, but because you are connected to the vine, that's what makes you good fruit. So in Matthew 17:16, it says, by their fruit you will recognize them. What fruit are you seeing in your life? What fruit are you producing in your life? Okay, now let's talk about John 15:2. He says, we're going to go back up because we read John 15:5, but we're going to go back up and read John 15:2. It says, he cuts off every branch in me that does doesn't bear any fruit. While every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes it so that it can be fruitful. In bearing fruit, expect pruning. God is always preparing you to be fruitful. And if you're bearing fruit, it's good. But if you're not bearing fruit, God will cut it away. Whatever's dead, whatever is not working in your life, whatever is not running correctly in your life, he will cut it off. And for me, just as I am a gardener, I love to plant stuff and see things grow. And with my tomatoes, they'll grow really big and tall, right? But sometimes in between the branches of that fruit, you get a little growth in between the vines, right? And basically what I have to do is I have to pluck that away. If I don't pluck that away, that little small piece that have grown, which it ain't gonna get no bigger than anything, it will drain the energy, so it'll stop the other vines from producing the fruit. So, but here's the thing. Here's the promise in John 15:16. You do not choose me, but I choose you, and I appointed you that you might go and bear fruit that will last. So God didn't just call you to be saved. He didn't call you to be saved. He didn't call us to be saved. He called us to bear fruit that lasts. Fruit that makes an eternal impact. So that's a lifetime. So Psalms 1:3 says, the righteous person is like a tree planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do, prosper. Notice, fruit in season. Not every season is harvest. Some seasons are for planting. Some seasons are for watering. Some seasons are for pruning. But if you stay rooted, the harvest will come. So Philippians 1:11 tells us, it says, we should be filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ. If it comes through anywhere else, I'm not sure about that, right? If it comes through anywhere else, I'm not sure about that. But it says fruit will fill of righteousness that will come through Jesus Christ to the glory and the praise of God. This fruit isn't for your glory or my glory. It's for the God's glory. It's for the glory of God. When people see your life and give glory to God, that's God's fruit, right? So what fruit are you? What fruit is it that you're bearing? Maybe it's leading someone to Christ, right? Or maybe it's being a godly example in your workplace. Maybe it's raising children who love Jesus. Maybe it's being obedient in the difficult seasons that inspire others. So fruit doesn't always look like a big platform, okay? Sometimes the greatest fruit is done in private, in obedience, okay? So 2 Peter 2:1-8 says, for if you possess the qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. Don't just know about Jesus. Bear the fruit for Jesus, right? Let's bear the fruit for Jesus. There was a moment where I was a caregiver for many years, and I was taking care of, and this is an example that I'm giving. I was taking care of my little lady, and it was a family member that came up, and I didn't know this family member. I'd never seen this family member before. So I was just like, I hope he knows him. But the family member was not, really in a space where he dealt with, that knew everybody at all times. So basically, he came up, started talking to him, and he realized that he wasn't himself. And he asked me, and I was like, no, he's not okay. He's, got some things going on. And, I talked to him, and I was just talking to him. And then the guy, all of a sudden, he just started talking to me, and he was going through some things. He just moved back from somewhere and trying to get his life restarted and everything. And I talked to him, said a couple of words, didn't say much, but just a couple of words. And he said, when I walked up, he said, I knew that you were a woman of God. And I was just like, again, I didn't say much to him. I just listened, and gave him, what I needed to give him, what God gave me to give him. And then that was it. But he said when he walked up, that initial first, encounter, he said he knew I was a woman of God. I didn't have a big old cross hanging down my neck. I didn't say, have a Bible in my hand, but he knew. So in saying that, we need to know the fruits that we're bearing. And if they're not bearing fruit, God will cut them off. Those fruit, God will cut them off. You have to be carrying those fruit. It's forbearing, love, peace, joy. The greatest of them all is love. But all of those in one, they all go together. Remember, it's not fruits, but it's fruit, right? It's fruit. So I just want to encourage you to give a person love, kindness, gentleness. Acts of kindness goes a long way. A smile goes a long way. If you encourage someone, it goes a long way. That is the fruit of the Spirit, right? That is the fruit of the Spirit. So in bearing fruit, in order for us to grow, we have to remain where? In the vine. We have to remain in God in order to bear fruit. Because he says, apart from him, we are nothing. We are nothing apart from him. So we have to remain in the vine. And he says, whatever is not bearing fruit, he cuts off. And then what's bearing fruit, he prunes it in order for it to produce more. So to bear fruit, we need to remain connected to the vine, right? So here's what I want you to remember. Everything we talked about in this series, being grounded, rooted in obedience and wholeness, cultivating your heart, standing firm, and it all leads to bearing fruit, bearing the fruit, remaining in the vine, remaining in God, being grounded, rooted in obedience and wholeness in God, right? You were created for impact, right? You just didn't get saved just to sit on the church pew. You have to get out there and show why you're saved. What is Jesus all about? Because you may be the only Jesus somebody sees or somebody knows. So let's bear good fruit, not rotten fruit. Let's bear some good fruit, right? So you were called to make a difference, right? So when we stay connected, when we stay connected to Jesus, the fruit is inevitable. It will produce without even, if we stay connected. So this week, I want you to ask yourself, what fruit am I producing? And what changes that I need to make to bear more fruit, right? Some of that is getting connected, truly getting connected with God, right? Truly getting connected to the vine, leaning more into Him. That's the only way that He said that we can bear fruit. We can't bear fruit alone. We'll be bearing fruit, but it won't be good fruit, right? So I would like to say thank you so much for joining us in this series and this journey with me. And this is not the end. Remember, this is not the end. This was just only a series. We got more to come, and it's just the beginning. So I want you to keep growing, keep bearing fruit. Remember, you are grounded, you are rooted, and you are walking in obedience and wholeness. I'm your host, Robin. I will see you next time. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Be blessed, and we will see you later. Bye-bye now.